to welcome everyone, and we will have the shuttle bus back over here around 11:15 for those of you that are going to lunch that need a ride, so it'll be available for that as well. And we're excited to have Dr. Samara share this healthful information for us today, and I hope you received or helped yourselves to some of our healthy snacks and beverages in the back of the room. So without further ado, we'll get started, and thank you, Dr. Samara, for coming. She has some guests as well that she'll introduce, so thank you. Be sure and write down your questions on your evaluation forms, and if you'd like to silence your phones, that would be wonderful. After she's through, if you write down your questions, we can do a Q&A as well and get some good answers. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Samara, and I am a family medicine physician who has been learning real medicine after the residency. I have been studying functional medicine, and basically functional medicine is trying to get to the root of the cause of your problem, not just treating symptoms, not just giving a pill for an ill. And that's what I was doing. Every 10-15 minutes I was seeing patients, hypertension, hypothyroidism, anxiety, depression. What else we've got? Osteoarthritis, diabetes, low back pain. And all I was doing was prescribing medications and ordering labs that really don't give me much clues. It's just part of the workup, and that's just the gold standard. And then we call patients, or the medical assistant calls the patient, says it's all good. Your prescription's in the pharmacy, come back in 3 to 6 months, right? Yes, yeah? Didn't have time to ask you if you sleep, if you are stressed, if what you eat for breakfast, because that's just the nature of our medical system. But I broke away, I broke free, and finally I'm a doctor that I want to be. And so I have a practice here in Yukon, 5 minutes away from here. My kids go to Yukon schools. I graduated from Mustang High School, so yeah, those football games, it's difficult. But I'm here just to bring your awareness how your lifestyle can make a change in your health, and that it's never too late, okay? Because health is wealth. No matter how much money we have, if we are not healthy, it doesn't mean much to us, because that money is going to be spent, instead of going on vacation, we're going on vacation to ER, and we're staying for a week in the hospital because something is wrong with us. So I'm just going to give you key points in making sure that you start making changes, and what kind of changes you should start making. I hope I can work this. That is blurry. I guess you cannot see this. But in functional medicine, you see these are the branches, and the leaves are your organ systems. And our medical system is divided into urology, cardiology, psychiatry, nephrology. I know I'm missing others, but what happens is that we're just separated. You know, oh, you have a kidney problem, you have to go to a kidney doctor. You have a lung problem, you have to go to a pulmonologist, and then they don't really communicate very well, and it's very difficult to keep things together. But the problem is that they're focusing on the symptoms. They're not looking into the root cause of the problem. So, for example, a person may have asthma, but the trigger for that asthma is something different than the other person, but they get treated the same way because they're treating the symptoms. Now, I just think it may just have, yeah, it doesn't. So what I want to focus on with patients is the root causes. What's the soil like? So the soil for us is, are we dealing with stress? What kind of nutrition do we have? Are we moving? What kind of exercise we are doing? Are we having a sense of community and belonging? And Yeah, it's so very difficult to see. And are we sleeping and resting well? Because sleep is supposed to regenerate us. So, bodily functions, okay? We need our body to function correctly in order to survive and in order to live a good life. So, the body takes in what it needs, and if it doesn't get what it needs, then it's not going to function properly. And then our body is supposed to remove waste. So we remove waste through our stool, through the GI system, through our urine, and through our sweat. So it is a very good thing to sweat. Don't be afraid to sweat. And so the questions are we taking the right nutrients? Are we drinking enough water? Okay. How much water should we drink? Does anybody know? Yes. Yes. Well, coffee counts as a fluid without the sugar, without the milk, without the additives. But it's a fluid. Yeah, it has caffeine in it, so it's going to make you pee out the fluid. So I'm talking about nutritious water. So you should drink at least half of your weight in ounces. So let's say if you weigh 150 pounds, then you should have at least 75 ounces of water daily. At least. That's at least. And so the question is, and everybody has different goals, and everybody has a different idea what health means to them. For some people, health means, hey, I want to be able to work full time until I'm 150 years old, or I want to continue running marathons. Or maybe to somebody, health means, hey, I just want to get up out of bed without pain. Okay, so there are different people are at different points in their lives, and different people have different needs. And so now the question is, what are you doing to be healthy? Are you moving around, or are you sitting and watching TV all day long? Are you eating the right kind of things, like nutritious food? Or are you eating things that come out of a package, which is not food? It's a wannabe of food. So, right? Okay, so all of the stuff in the middle of in the grocery store, in the middle of the middle aisles, that's not food. Stay away. Do not go in. Okay, do not be tempted. The other thing is, how do you deal with stress? Because we will always have stress. One stress goes away, another one comes along. But the difference is, how do we deal with stress? Do we have any way to cope with it? Do we have a support system? Do we have loved ones that we can be with and that can help us deal with stress? And then we kind of touched on that. What does it mean to be sick? Are you fatigued? Do you have problems with memory? Do you have pain? Do you have depression? Do you have anxiety? Do you feel lonely? Or are you alone? Are you able to move, or are you able not to move? And so that is why I'm here. Because yes, we can be diagnosed with depression, with anxiety, with blood sugar problems, with high blood pressure. But the question is, why? Why do we have that? And then what can we do to make it go away or make it less? So everything affects us. The food that we eat is the information that our body receives. The stress around us causes us to react in a certain way. Higher stress, more problems with blood pressure, more problems with anxiety, more problems with depression. Not enough sleep or not getting restful sleep feeds into that chronic disease state. And then, of course, believing in a higher power. And so I have to be politically correct. Not everybody believes that there is a God, but there are some people that believe that there's a higher power, and those that believe that there's something greater than them have less problems with chronic disease. Okay, this is my favorite one because nobody really asks you, hey, how do you poop? Do you pee a lot at night? Do you get up and pee at night? Or do you not pee enough? Do you sweat? And so in medical school and throughout residency, I was told that, well, you ask the patient how often they poop, and that is their normal. Let me tell you, once a week is not normal. Once every 2 days is not normal. So who can tell me what normal is? At least once a day, okay? So, okay, so I have the poopometer that I call the poopometer. If you are not pooping, you are not detoxifying, and you're not removing waste. All of those toxins stay in there and get recirculated. So I have this Bristol stool form scale, and I'm going to pass it around. And so the question is, what type are you? Okay, you want to be a type 3 or 4. Type 4 is the best one to be. It's smooth, and if you make snake poops, that's great. Okay. So I'm going to pass it around, and you guys can take a look at the poopometer. Right? Sleeping. What happens in our sleep? Dreams, right? But regeneration. Detoxification happens when we sleep. That's whenever the cleaning crew comes in at night and mops up all of the debris. If you're not sleeping well, you're not mopping up your debris. Okay, so sleeping is very important. Melatonin is the chemical that is produced in the brain. It is produced from serotonin, and serotonin is a neurotransmitter that is responsible for our mood. So depression, anxiety. You've heard of Paxil and Lexapro and Prozac, and there are all these other new ones on the market. But those are the ones that improve serotonin, ability for the serotonin to work correctly. So if you don't have enough serotonin, you're not going to produce enough melatonin. Okay, women need more sleep than men. It's been proven. So we need at least 8 hours of sleep, as far as what I have read in the latest studies. Electricity. If you have a smart meter on your home, that means you have dirty electricity. And dirty electricity means that it's not, the wave is not even. You will have spikes and ups and downs, and that actually causes problems for our health. Wi-Fi is not good either. There was a study, well, there wasn't a study, but there was a science project that these girls did where they put plants in the room with Wi-Fi and plants in the room without Wi-Fi, and the plants in the room without Wi-Fi grew better and stronger. Simple science project. And they want to bring in 5G. Yeah, not good for us. Movement. Sitting is the new smoking. So it's true. If you sit throughout the day, it is just as bad as if you were smoking. So you might as well just smoke a pack of cigarettes. I'm not encouraging that, but sitting it increases your problems with chronic diseases. Okay, so chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, arthritis. So we need to move around. And what is moving around? Walking, vacuuming, dancing, jogging, yoga, tai chi, all of those things we need in our lives, because we as creatures were born to move. We weren't born to sit. And then we go to don't eat crap. You eat crap, you're gonna poop crap, okay? So what should we be eating? We should be eating lots of veggies, 9 to 12 servings of vegetables a day. And we should eat a rainbow color of veggies. And what is a serving? So, yes, so half a cup of fresh veggies and a cup of frozen veggies. Prefer fresh veggies, not canned. Prefer for them to be non-GMO and organic. Okay, organic in this country doesn't mean it's 100% pesticide free, but it has less pesticides than the ones that are not organic. And then fruits. I know I have a lot of patients that love fruits, and I always tell them treat fruits as a dessert and limit that to 2 servings per day, and just because of the sugar content of the fruits. And also, I didn't put that, but eat in season. Okay, so cherries are June, July. Eat lots of cherries in June, July. Watermelon during the summertime. Apples, pears, plums are fall and early or late summer and fall fruits. And the same goes for vegetables. So always try to eat in season. Strawberries do not grow in the wintertime. Okay, healthy fats, carbs, and proteins. So what are healthy fats? When I'm talking about healthy fats, where do we get those? Avocados, olives, olive oil, nuts, yes, but peanuts are not good, okay? So it's almonds, nuts like almonds and walnuts. And what am I missing? What are the pistachios, pecans? Yes, those are the good fats that we want. Animal fat is inflammatory fat, and I'm not against eating animals, but try to eat more vegetables than animals, okay? And then use lots of herbs. Don't be afraid to use dillweed, to use basil, to use all of the different herbs that we have. Just sprinkle it on everything. It makes things taste better. So going to protein, animal protein. Vegetables also have protein, but they have different types of proteins. But animals, when you choose to eat meat, always make sure that you choose grass-fed, organic, happy cows, happy chickens who are grazing and pecking out the grass, and fish. Okay, we should have at least 3 servings of fish per week. The larger fish, you have to be very careful because salmon and tuna fish contain mercury in it, so you want to limit those to 3 servings per week. Sardines are very good. Okay. Eat sardines. A can of sardines offers about 1,700 milligrams of fish oil in a can of sardines. So, love and belonging. We are not meant to be an island. We are meant to be a community. We want to feel loved and we want to belong to something. We want to be grateful for things that we have and the people that are around us. So you need to surround yourself with people that you love and that they love you back, who are not negative. But people who are alone and feel lonely have a higher risk of having chronic diseases and having chronic problems. So it's very, very important to have a sense of community. Some people, well, there's a lot of people that tell me volunteering brings them the greatest joy than ever. And actually volunteering and having the joy from that improves your health, right? Who would have known? So another thing you have to do is unwind. Reduce your stress. Do activities that are unwinding and do activities that help you manage stress. Just like I said in the beginning, stress will always be there, but we need to learn how to deal with it. So things like breathing exercises, yoga, Tai Chi, meditation. I personally have a hard time knowing how to meditate, so I have to have somebody teach me, and there's apps on iPhones, and I do guided meditation. It's very difficult, but they're for people like me who don't know how to do it. But it has been shown that people who meditate at least once a day for 15 minutes have better outcomes overall in all aspects of their life, okay? Praying is also a form of meditation, and it's a very powerful meditation. So I know I put questions up here, but I think what I'm going to do is, I brought Chris with me, and she has something to share with you, and kind of to let you know what kind of things I do with my practice. And I guess I'm just going to have you take over, and then we're going to have Twyla. Twyla is a naturopathic doctor that is wonderful. She's filled with knowledge, and she's going to share that knowledge with you as well.
Hi, my dad sees Dr. Samara. He's 84 years old. He has Parkinson's. He's diagnosed in 2011, so it's kind of an advanced Parkinson's. He was living in an assisted living when I started taking him to Dr. Samara. And he was on all kinds of medications because he had, 14 different doctors, and they all prescribed this for that and this for that. And so he had his Parkinson's medication, he had his diabetes medication, he had his high blood pressure medication, he had all that stuff. Took him to Dr. Samara, and she looked at everything that he had. And we discussed getting him off a lot of this stuff, because what we're going to try to do, I was going to help him with his nutrition. He was not going to be in the assisted living. He was going to come home and live with us, and we were going to take care of him to feed him, because we thought that was the biggest thing. Because what he was getting in his assisted living center was not real food, because I talked to them about that, and they said, we're a facility, we have lots of people we got to feed, and we can't do like fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. We can't do all that kind of stuff. Okay, I understand. So you got to deal with what you've got. So that's what we started doing. We brought him home and started giving him fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, basically not prepackaged stuff. Dr. Samara helped us to get him off of all of his statin drugs, because he didn't need them anymore. He no longer is diabetic, so he's not on the metformin anymore. He doesn't take the Parkinson's medication because, well, first of all, it wasn't helping him anymore. So he's doing well. He doesn't have the tremors. Well, he has tremors every so often, but he was doing the head moving around. I don't know if you've known anybody who's got Parkinson's, but at some point they start doing all this involuntary movement, and he was doing that. So we took him off the Parkinson's medication. He doesn't do that anymore. So he's doing well. He's 84. He does have advanced Parkinson's. That's not going away, but he is doing better. And I attribute a lot of that to working with Dr. Samara, because she helped us a lot with that.
So Twyla is ready for us, and she's got more information. It's along the same lines. We have the same outlook. We share the same views. So I'm just going to give this to Twyla. Twyla, go ahead and take over.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Dr. Samara, thank you. That was very good. I really appreciate it. We're going to talk about a lot of the same things, so some of it you're going to hear twice. I'm sorry. Chris, thank you. That was really nice. I want to thank all of you for coming out today, because, it's a rainy day, and it's cold. It's hard to get out. So I want to thank everyone for making the effort and for Spanish Cove for inviting us to be here today. My name is Twyla Wilson. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I have a PhD in nutrition. And the most important reason why I'm here, well, two reasons I think it's really important for me to be here talking to you today is that I'm one of very few people in the state of Oklahoma that's certified in a program that has actually been proven to reverse Alzheimer's. The doctor that I work with is, well, I'm sorry, kind of getting ahead of myself, but that's why I'm here to talk to you about this program a little bit. And I want to talk to you about some things that you can do right now yourself at home, mirrors a lot of what Dr. Samara has already told you, that will help you to prevent getting Alzheimer's and also to preserve your memory or to protect your brain. So I call it picklehead. So a pickle for your thoughts, 10 things that you can do now to protect your brain and your memories. And so if you can go to the next slide, please. I gave this slide because it's really a lot of little things that add up to big things. I'm going to try to get this. Okay. Oh, I can click it. Sorry, I did not know that. Oh, let's try to put this one here.
Yeah.
So, which one do I put? This one? Okay, I'll keep that. Okay, so simple little things that you do every day, we don't realize they're either adding or subtracting from our health. So you do the wrong things every day you're taking a little penny out of your savings account, your health savings account. If you add that penny in or you do the right things, you're actually contributing to your health and longevity. The Scottish have a saying, many littles make a mickle. So a little is like those little things, and a mickle is a lot of stuff. And I put this guy on here because he is over 100 years old and he still plays golf all the time. And even in tournaments, he's a winner. So that's kind of exciting. How many of us would like that, you know? Like to have that kind of energy. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I mentioned to you briefly that I am one of the very few people in the state of Oklahoma that is actually certified in this program called The End of Alzheimer's. It was developed by Dr. Dale Bredesen. He is a PhD, MD, research scientist. He is affiliated with the University of San Francisco, and he was the founder of the Buck Institute, which studies aging. He wrote this book called The End of Alzheimer's about 2 years ago. And that book sold 8 million copies in 3 months. How many of you think that means the world is hungry for something that can really give us a message of hope, to give us something that's actionable that we can do today? I mean, I can tell you that my own mother has Alzheimer's, and that's partly why I got into this. My grandmother had Alzheimer's, but when my best friend found out that she had the ApoE4 gene, which sets you up for the worst possible case scenario genetically for Alzheimer's development, she begged me, please go study with Dr. Bredesen and find out how to do this program and then be my teacher, my coach, my mentor. So that's what I do. I coach and I mentor people in this program. Dr. Bredesen discovered from his research, which started out as anti-aging, that there are 6 primary categories that can cause a person to get Alzheimer's. I'm sorry, I have to put my glasses on so I can read these to you. The first one is called dazed. Dazed means trauma of some sort. Head trauma. It could also be from PTSD. It can become from having anesthesia, things like that. So if you've had more than 2 anesthesias after age 40, you don't realize it, but you're setting yourself up for brain trauma. So this dazed category really has to do with brain damage per se, so damaged tissue. The second category is called bile. Bile has to do with toxins, and those toxins are literally everywhere, and you cannot avoid them. And this is one of the reasons why I really stress eating organic. That is one thing that you can do. I might not be able to do much for the quality of the air outside. I may not be able to do much for a lot of these other things, but that is something that I can do. I can be in control of at least some of those things. So GMOs, bad. You know, Pollution, it's everywhere, we already know that. So the next category is, by the way, I would like to also say this. I feel like the vile category that I just talked about is the least appreciated and probably the most insidious of all of these problems, by the way. And I'm going to give you a lot more information on that in a minute. In fact, you tell me to get off my soapbox because you'll probably get tired of hearing that, but it's really important. Okay, cold is another reason why people get Alzheimer's or have memory problems, and that is because they have poor circulation. They don't have good hormone production, like your thyroid is your body's regulator. Turns out that certain toxic chemicals also disrupt that process and keep you from being able to temperature regulate. So some people can't sleep because they get too hot at night when they're asleep and they wake up. Some people can't sleep because they're too cold and can never warm up. Those are somewhat related to toxins in our environment. Some of it's hormones and some of it's exercise. So the next category is called hot. Hot is chronic inflammation and infections, and those infections can be anything from a bacteria, yeast, mold, fungus, that kind of thing. And inflammation, you know, you fell a long time ago, you hurt something, you never really fully recovered from it, and you just got ongoing pain, and turns out that if you are in those situations, it's draining you of life force energy. And I mean, I don't know how many of you have the idea of life force energy, but let me just briefly tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to show you a slide that kind of helps you understand it a little bit more. But before I started doing all this stuff, I was actually a practitioner of Chinese medicine, and I did acupuncture. I still do a little bit of that. In fact, I was able to treat Ms. Hughes' son-in-law for a chronic hip injury with acupuncture a few years ago, so that's how I kind of know her a little bit. And so anyway, life force energy is this mysterious substance that the Chinese believe in, and that's what we work on with Chinese medicine. It turns out if you have good, strong life force energy, you're pretty much disease resistant, you recover from things. If you don't have good life force energy, then you're going to be susceptible to everything and you're going to be in pain. So we're going to find out, how can we have good life force energy? I mean, that would be great, wouldn't it? So that you can have vitality and be resistant, all that. The next category is sweet. Sweet has to do with sugar, blood sugar, and so many people come in and they tell me when they come to my office, well, I'm not diabetic, I'm not pre-diabetic, that can't be a problem for me, but it's actually, we find out that that's not true. People's blood sugar is going up and down all day long. People don't realize that there is a type of diabetes that's called diabetes type 3. It only affects the brain, but when it affects the brain cannot use glucose, which is its primary source of fuel, and therefore it runs out of gas. When your brain is out of gas, guess what? Doesn't work. Forget things. And if you become insulin resistant, either in the body or the brain or both, your body is really going to run out of gas a lot. You're not going to have vitality. There are ways to restore insulin sensitivity in the brain, and there are ways to restore insulin sensitivity in the body. And Dr. Samara already told you, or I think it was Chris, she said, my dad used to be diabetic and he's not anymore. I mean, you know, the good news is, yeah, you can do something about, I mean, not maybe type 1, but even type 1s can be helped with these kinds of programs, by the way. So that's sweet. The last category is pale. Again, that has to do with circulation, nutrition, deficiencies, and things like that. So if you have any of these things going on, the chances are that your brain is going to be diminished by that. By the way, there's a gene type that's called ApoE44. Some people have that, and I believe Chris told me her dad has that. Right, so anyway, there's a genetic predisposition for Alzheimer's. If you have one of those genetic predispositions, you cannot wait to make these changes, because after 65, the chances of you developing dementia and Alzheimer's goes up radically. And if you have that particular one, that's the worst one, 4-4, it's like 75 to 90% chance. So even with that, it can still be prevented, and that is because, and I'm going to go to my next slide, of this thing that I call Gene Genie from some crazy rock song in the past. that is based on this idea of epigenetics. Epigenetics is an idea that some of your genes can be turned off and some of your genes can be turned on by diet, nutrition, stress reduction, all those things that we've already talked about. I'm going to give you a couple more ideas on that, but it's sort of a new science, but it also tells you why some people recover from things and some people don't, because some people figure out how to turn their good genes back on, and some people don't figure that out and they turn on the bad ones. And so, I mean, there's a big long talk we could have about that. There's a whole interesting book called Dirty Genes. If any of you want to read that, I would highly recommend it. It gives you a lot of ideas on that. But it's basically stress, nutrition, exercise, those kinds of things can make a huge difference. And so the 10 things I'm going to talk to you about besides what I just mentioned to you are why you should be a picky eater and what picky eater actually means, why you need to go fresh, go raw, eat the rainbow, as Dr. Samara already talked to you about, why you should eat pickles and how they're so good for your brain and why you should laugh, sing, dance, have fun, because all of those things make neurotransmitters and help your body to be healthier, and they also help you to have a better point of view and be involved. Avoid the 4 horsemen. The 4 horsemen are all those toxins and pollution that I'll go into in a little bit more depth. Count your sheep. Of course, that is all about sleep. Check your canaries. Your canaries are your 5 senses and a few other things like walking speed. So when people start to have problems, they start to have problems with their canaries. And so, you know, the canary is the warning system that the coal miners used to use back in the day. They would take a little canary down there in the coal mine, and if that canary keeled over, they had about 10 minutes or something to clear out before the whole mine would come down on them, right? It meant that there was gas, toxic gas. So we have that early warning system, and it's called our 5 senses plus walking speed, and so I'll tell you more about that. Then using your noodle, using your mind. Brain exercises are proven to work. Putting out the fire means putting out that inflammation and getting those pockets of stress under control, and then turning up the heat has a lot to do with getting your circulation and your hormones under control. So being a picky eater is kind of like going back to being an old school cook, you know, back in the day when we actually literally made stuff from scratch, which I don't think anybody knows how to do anymore. Well, you know, you should teach classes because I cannot tell you how many people do not know how to cook anymore. They don't have no familiarity with their kitchen. It's put it in the microwave and, you know, that's it. That's how you cook, or you drive through. In fact, if you ask most people, and you were talking about how most doctors in the old school, not I mean the older way to do it instead of being this new functional medicine, they don't have time to ask you, what do you eat every day? Where do you get your food? When I ask my customers that, or my clients that, do you know the vast majority of them eat 3 meals a day from a drive-through? Yeah, 3 meals a day through a drive-through. And you ask yourself, why do they have Parkinson's? Why do they have MS? Why do they have Alzheimer's? You know, even kids, you know, why do they have autism? Why? Well, how can you get any nutrition from that? It's not good. So, real food grows on trees. It has stems, it has seeds, it comes in its own package. You know, it doesn't need cellophane. You know, it's like amazing. It's the way God made it, right? That's the way we should be eating it. Make your meals yourself. Another concept is eating simply, meaning, you know, most of us think, oh, you know, that's so boring. I need to add this, that, and the other thing to it. And I'm not talking about spices. I believe in spices. Spices really have medicinal qualities. They help fight infections and diseases and all that. But I'm talking about all these sauces and all this stuff. You don't need that. You need real food that's simply made and it's simply good for you. So food isn't really for entertainment. It's not, you know, winning a blue ribbon at the county fair or whatever, how we got to this crazy world that we live in today. Real food is simple stuff like beans and rice and, you know, lettuce and collards and all that stuff. Those are the real foods. So the next thing is, of course, the eating pickles thing. So I told you a little bit about that. Sorry. No packaged foods. So stay away from them because they have terrible ingredients, and you don't know what's in them, and you don't. If you did, you definitely wouldn't eat them. So, you know, when I was young, I'm a big scratch cooker. You know, I mean, I don't know how I got to be this way because I'm like the only person in my family that even knows how to cook. And when I used to live in California, literally, people would invite me over to their house to make food for them because they didn't know how to cook or sew on buttons sometimes. So there's some real advantage to being from a place where we still do stuff, right? You know. So anyway, did you know that a lot of the stuff that we take for granted is adulterated with stuff that shouldn't be in there? Like, for instance, baking powder has aluminum in it. Aluminum is a neurotoxin. Why do we have that in our food? They even put it in salt. It makes things pour easier. But wouldn't you rather not have it? What about that stuff they put in bread that actually blocks your ability to absorb the nutrients from the bread? It's terrible. We shouldn't have that in our food. So that's part of, we have let our food supply become really adulterated, and we really need to get political on that. You can cut out the whites, wheat, dairy, rice, corn, sugar, and potatoes, and I know that's not a favorite topic for a lot of people, but the more you can cut those things out, the better. You know, wheat isn't necessarily bad for you if it was the way that it was originally designed, but because it's so genetically modified, and wheat, corn, rice, and cotton are the most sprayed crops in the world. And they have more toxins on them than any other crops. But also I want to point out something on strawberries. Super important that you eat organic strawberries. The fields that they grow strawberries in, when they spray the pesticides, are so dangerous that they have to wear hazmat suits to do it, and then nothing can go in those fields for 3 days. And you give your little kid, here's a cute little kid, oh, have a strawberry. Oh, I'm telling you, that probably could kill them, you know, so you can't do that. Don't do that anymore. That's not being a good grandma, aunt, you know, loved one. You're just hurting them. Dr. Bredesen says eat 2 meals a day. If you can get to where you're eating 2 meals a day instead of 3, that's better for you because your digestive tract, it takes a long time for foods to be processed. They've actually found that people that eat 2 meals a day can reverse their age biologically, which is kind of interesting. You don't want to eat before 10 o'clock in the morning and after 7. If that's not something you can do because of different considerations, we can certainly modify that, but in general, try to implement this for yourself. You'll see you have more energy and you'll feel a lot better, look a lot better. And also we need to set up our bodies to have a good internal environment. So the next slide I want to show you is these 2 mice. These 2 mice are basically twins. They don't look like twins though, do they? Now, what happened with these 2 mice is that, actually they aren't exactly twins, they were genetically the same. They were raised in a lab, and in that lab, one of the mice's mother was given a junk food diet, and the other one was given a science diet that was really healthy for them. So that big rat, or that big mouse, is the one that was raised on the junk food diet. So not only was it huge like that, and unnatural in that respect, but it also was a poor mother. It could not give nurturing as well as the other mice, and it was also very susceptible to addictions. How many of us know people like that? I mean, we all do. They're in our families and our friends. So proper diet is very important, and you don't want to be nutrient deficient. You need the right nutrients, and you need to also reduce your stress, as Dr. Samara already said. So 99% of commercial apples have 42 pesticides on them or in them. They have 6 of them are developmental and reproductive toxins. 19 are hormone disruptors. 10 are neurotoxins, meaning they hurt your brain. And then 7 are carcinogens, so I know you all know what that is. So I thought this was an extremely interesting study. There's a doctor I just think is amazing who is at MIT, Dr. Stephanie Sneff, S-N-E-F-F. You can look her up on the computer if you want. She is probably the world's leading expert on glyphosate toxicity in our society. Glyphosate is the chemical that is in Roundup. I know all of you have heard of it. It's been in the news a lot lately about how it causes cancers and things like that. But I bet most of you don't know that it also is highly linked to dementia and autism. In 1990, in Colorado, which is a big farming state, a big ag state, kind of like Oklahoma is, they had 0 cases of reported learning disabilities and dyslexia, things like that. But by the year 2010, they had over 100,000 cases. You know, I mean, that's sad, you know, when you start thinking about why is that? I mean, what could have changed that much in that short of an amount of time? Well, it turns out that's when we started using tons of glyphosate on our farming, in our farming communities, and that everybody was getting exposed to it. And these young brains are getting damaged by that. So, you know, I'm not saying it's the only cause of that. Don't hear me say that. But gosh, if we could take one thing off their plate, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that give them a better start? Okay, as older people, it's damaging us too. That glyphosate actually is one of the reasons why people are getting diabetes and dementia, because it actually disrupts our glucose cycle in our body. So I could tell you more about that, but they have found a direct link between Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, and diabetes, autism, and other diseases, specifically from glyphosate alone. So if you could do one thing good for our country and our environment, it would be to get that out of our environment. Yes, ma'am. Glyphosate. It is actually Roundup. The weed killer Roundup, which is, anyway, don't even get me on that, because you don't want to be here all day. But I can tell you that there are thousands of studies that show this is not a safe chemical. 100 countries banned food from the United States specifically for this reason. I mean, you know, really, how many countries are there? Only 192. So, you know, like, really, it's sad. So, now, I guess I want to tell you one more. Well, no, I'll tell you that in a minute. Sorry, let me turn this page. Okay, so we talked about eating the rainbow. The rainbow means you want to eat foods of every different color as possible every day. Something red, something orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, white, those things, because they all have different benefits. So probably all of you know blueberries are good for your eyes. Why? Because they're antioxidant. But they also have some other benefits. Red foods are really good for your blood supply, surprisingly. And you can probably read the rest of this one here, but I want to stress, even though I told you that apples are toxic, if you would eat the organic apples, which is not that much more expensive and it's totally worth it, because okay, here's your choices. Be in long-term memory care, which is like 10 grand a month for a lot of people, or buy organic, which is a whole lot cheaper, you know, and has other health benefits and keep you out of that place. Okay, so apples, if they're organic, they help you with your bones. It helps with asthma. It's really good for your lungs. It's good for all kinds of different kinds of cancers. It's been proven to be good for people with Alzheimer's and dementia problems. It lowers your cholesterol, it helps diabetes, it helps with weight management, it helps with elimination. It's one of nature's most perfect foods. Again, why we need organic apples, and we need to make sure our kids get them and we get them every day, one a day. Also, maybe not a popular subject, but when we're talking about eating simply, beans and greens. If you can eat beans and greens twice a day, just 1 cup of each, they can actually really improve your health. And beans, by the way, are low glycemic. So instead of eating bread and all that stuff, which, you know, I don't know how many of you have this problem, but when you eat certain foods and they are high glycemic, you know, you feel really good for a little bit and then you crash and burn. So if you were to eat this, it'd stay with you longer and you would have better nutrition and you'd have lower glycemic value. So it's really a good idea. Greens and beans twice a day. Okay, now, next. We already talked about this too. Nuts, go nuts. Have seeds. Have walnuts, pecans, macadamias, almonds, hemp seeds, flaxseed, chia, nut butters, nut milk. Don't eat peanuts. Peanuts are loaded with aflatoxins. Peanut butter is loaded with aflatoxins. Peanuts, okay, well, let me ask you. If you could trade 7 to 10 years of your life away for peanut butter, would you do it? Okay, well, that's what you'd be doing if you were eating peanuts. Because peanuts actually have this toxin on them. It's not the peanuts themselves, it's this toxic substance that gets on the peanuts. It cannot be washed off, it cannot be burned off, it's just unfortunately there. And those toxins kill your liver. So bears at the zoo, they used to give them peanuts, and they found out that when they quit giving them peanuts, they quit dying of liver cancer, and they lived 7 to 10 years longer. So be like that. Stay away from that stuff. There's other good choices. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty shocking, isn't it? No. Yeah, well, and if you're like me, I love peanuts. I would love to eat them. So yeah, so I mean, it's sad, but there's other good nut butters available. So just make the change. It's not going to be that hard. Okay, so this other little inset that I put in here, this is organic vegetables, organic tomato and an organic piece of broccoli. The picture on the far side of the picture is before it was cooked and then after it's cooked. So I put this on here just to I told you about life force energy, and you're like, oh, what's that, You can see it in this picture. Organic foods, if you eat them raw especially, they are just crackling with this energy. It's amazing. And if you cook them, they still have a lot, and if I had the conventional next to it, you'd be going, oh my goodness, that's really something. But if you can eat them, uncooked, that's actually the very best, and I'm not saying that you can't throw them in your blender and make a sauce or whatever with them, but it's really best to eat them raw if you can. About 50% of your diet could be raw organic if possible. Raw organic. Because you love yourself. Okay, so now here's the pickle slide. There's something called the gut-brain axis, or axis. I'm not really saying it's not access, it's axis, like they are related to each other. And it turns out that you have more cells in your gut than you do in your entire rest of your body, and they're not even human cells, they're like bacteria. And they do all kinds of amazing things for us. And some of the things that they do is make neurotransmitters for us. They also are the source of serotonin and dopamine and endorphins and things like that. So wouldn't you really like to have good gut bacteria? Okay, so most of us have taken antibiotics, and even if you don't think you've been taking antibiotics, if you've been eating commercially produced meat, for instance, it's loaded with antibiotics. You're getting antibiotics in your diet every day. You don't even know that. It's killing off your gut bacteria. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to add a little bit to that. And most of our neurotransmitters are made in the gut. So once again, if you do not have a healthy gut and you do not have the good bacteria, then you will be depressed, you will be anxious. Sometimes GI diseases are, well, sometimes there are some GI diseases that you may not have GI symptoms, but you may have psychological symptoms such as bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and then after so many years you're diagnosed with these psychological diseases, and then after 10, 20 years you start having GI symptoms and they tell you, oh, you have celiac or you have Crohn's, and then they treat the celiac and the Crohn's, and then you're no longer schizophrenic. There are case studies like this. So I'm going to add one more thing, Twyla. How do you feed your gut microbiome? Vegetables.
Right, so depression and anxiety are usually the first symptoms of poor gut health. So if you know somebody that's mildly depressed or is chronically depressed or they have anxiety, and I'm also going to throw this in, if they are prone to addictions, they may have gut problems. The apple a day part of the reason why it's so great for you is it has the most perfect type of fiber. It has soluble and insoluble fiber. Okay, there's no quiz following, but just remember, apples have that. Other vegetables, they create this fiber, and guess what the nutrients are for the gut bacteria? They need fiber, that's what they eat. So we get the nutrients otherwise, but the gut bacteria, it needs all that fiber, and most people only eat 5 grams of fiber a day at the most, whereas you need about 25 to 30. So, wow, you know, probably most of us need help with that. Aside from the vegetables though, you need to eat fermented foods every day. They have to be the right kind. So homemade pickles or any of these foods that have live cultures like kimchi or sauerkraut or yogurt or kefir, any of those things can really, really, really help you, because you're going to be sloughing off a certain amount of that bacteria every day, and you need to keep replenishing it. So how they used to do it in the old days is they ate this kind of stuff, and we need to do it too, at least 1 serving a day. And I mean, it doesn't have to be a big serving. Yes, ma'am.
We had to eat fermented pickles. Do we not get those when we just buy pickles in the store?
You have to see if they are live culture or not. And I will say the vast majority of them are not. But there is, when you look on the package, it's going to say active cultures or something like that. By the way, pickles are super easy to make yourself. I mean, literally, they really are. I did not know how easy. And sauerkraut is super easy to make yourself. I mean, goodness. And, you know, so you don't even have to spend a lot of money on it, because guess what? Cucumbers and cabbage are both cheap, right? So I like that about them. Anyway, so people say this to me all the time. Well, I drink beer. I drink wine. I'm getting my fermented food from that. No, no, you're not. Beer actually even is the worst one, because it has this stuff in it that creates this thing called prions. I'm not going to go into that, but those are terrible for you, and you need to stay away from that, because that can set you up for a lot of problems. You don't want that. It's easy just to ignore them. I mean, to avoid that. So, number 4, you already heard Dr. Samara tell you. I'm just going to tell you again. You need to have fun. You need to laugh. You need to sing. You need to dance. You need to have community. I call that shindig, where you just kind of get together and you do stuff, whatever, with your friends. Laughing in itself is even good exercise. It also reproduces endorphins. Singing is good exercise. It also produces endorphins. You know, you gotta find some kind of exercise you like. You know, most people don't exercise because they don't want to go outside and get in the rain when it's cold like today or whatever. Just find something else to do. You can put on some music in your house when nobody else is there, and you can dance around. How fun is that? You know? And you can do all, I mean, you just have to choose this for yourself. But even if you're not doing anything else, you can just move your hands like this, kind of get them up over your head while you're watching TV, do some foot rolls. Even those things are good for you, and they aren't hard to do, so just do those things. Socializing is super important. Making a joyful noise, playing, you know, the music, the piano, or doing things like that. All those things are super good for you. Plus, you know, romance is also good, right? If you can get that in your life. This next, oh sorry, I totally didn't even put that up for you, but now you see why I said romance. Dancing is romantic. Can be romantic. The 4 horsemen. These are the people you want to avoid at all costs, right? How many of you have seen kids that look like that kid on the top? That kid's only like 5 years old. He should not look like that. That guy down there, you've seen him in a lot of movies. That is sad. That guy has plenty of money. He does not have to look like that, but he does. Why? Because look at what he's eating. What is that? Okay, so even the packaging is toxic. That's why real food comes in its own package, you know? Those man boobs are caused from endocrine disruptors. So when I was showing you that slide with the apple that had the however many endocrine disruptor things on it, that was actually part of the problem, you know, and that's part of the reason why eating fast food is really bad for you, because even the packaging is toxic, but all the other stuff that goes with it is toxic. how many of you are a little stressed out perhaps about all these people that we see that are sort of genderless? You know, well, guess what? That's an endocrine disruption problem. So, you know, we want to not contribute to these toxic problems in our world. Of course, there's dementagens, there's carcinogens, there's obesogens. Those are things that are known to disrupt your glucose and your fat metabolism. We already talked about endocrine disruptors. Mutagens are things that cause mutations in the body. A lot of those are like GMOs and things like that, and food additives. So the reason why I have the 3 blind mice on here, and I want to just tell you this one little quick story. So 3 mice, they trained them to run a maze in 20 seconds. Then they gave those same mice 1 drop of yellow food coloring in their water, and it took those same mice 200 seconds to run that maze for 6 days. Tell me that's good for you. How many of you like fortune cookies? They have yellow food coloring in them, but it's not just the yellow food coloring, that purple food coloring that's in like Pop-Tarts and stuff like that. That is a terrible toxin. It's really bad for you. That's one of the 100 foods that's banned in most countries. Red food coloring, I'm going to gross you all out, it's made from cockroaches. Do you really want that in your diet? I'm sorry, but that's just gross. You know, so don't order the red colored whatever at Sonic, you know, when you go over there, right? I'm not picking on Sonic, I'm just pointing that out. So the next slide is about counting your sheep. If I can get it to turn. So you already, Dr. Samara did a really good job of telling you about this, but sleep is when your body goes into its repair cycle. It's not just your brain's repair cycle, but the brain does have a repair cycle where it sweeps out debris and it replenishes itself, and the heart has a repair cycle. Every organ has a repair cycle, so you need that 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep so every organ of your body gets a chance to repair itself. Every organ is going to repair itself for 2 hours, and then the energy that it produces from that goes to the next set of organs, and I'm basing this 100% on my studies of Chinese medicine, that I have found it to be true. If you wind up waking up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, or you're stressed out, or whatever reason, it happens to me quite a lot too, something is not getting repaired. The energy from that organ is not transferring to the next organ. So in Chinese medicine, we believe everything is interconnected. I don't know if you believe that or not, but most of you would miss your arm or your hand or whatever if it wasn't there, right? So just kind of think of it. Your body is a total system, and you have to support it. Sleep is an extremely important part of that whole process. And things that can disrupt your sleep, probably the number one thing is eating too late at night and your blood sugar spiking during the night. Besides that, your body temperature can't regulate, so if you get too hot when you're asleep and you wake up, that's a big problem, believe it or not, and that's actually caused by, it's sort of related to blood sugar. It's from glycogen problems. Nutritional deficiencies of other types, and then hormone problems are also reasons why you might not sleep. There may be a lot more of them, but okay, so here's your canaries, the 5 senses. So there's this thing in the brain, it's called the hippocampus. It's yellow in this picture. Dr. Bredesen had a guy who was another MD. He was actually a brain surgeon. He came to Dr. Bredesen. He couldn't practice. He was about 72 years old. And when they did an MRI on him, they found out that his hippocampus had shrunk to 17% of its normal size. If that happens, you're losing your sense of taste, smell. You might not be seeing quite as well. You can't hear very well. Your walking speed is going to be impaired. Your memory is going to be impaired, because the hippocampus is sort of like this computer chip that kind of directs all the traffic, and if it's not making a good connection, all these other things go bad. So it's really interesting that there's a little test that we can do with peanut butter, a good use for peanut butter, by the way, that we can test you to find out if your hippocampus is shrinking or not. And if you're interested in that, I do that for free, so just let me know. I can help you. We can do it at Dr. Samara's office probably. But anyway, this doctor, 17% of normal volume, he comes in, he says, Dr. Bredesen, you know, I need to get on your program, but I don't believe anything that you say, and I think you're full of BS. You know, and this is a really huge issue in medicine today, because the old school is pills, slash and burn, you know, all of that stuff. She just talked about it, Dr. Samara just talked about it. Functional medicine is completely different than that. We're looking for root cause. We're looking for the knee bone connected to the, you know, the hip bone and all that stuff, right? So, Dr. Bredesen found out that that was actually a real thing, that, you know, we are this very dynamic system, and that all these systems have to work together, and that's just like the Chinese medicine, and that's just like, you know, naturopaths of old, which is like my practice. So, anyway, so Dr. Bredesen said, well, you know, if you don't believe in what I'm doing here, what the heck are you here for? He said, well, Dr. Bredesen, you're the only one who has hope for me. No one else has offered me anything. You probably know this, but there is not a single drug on the market that can help a person with Alzheimer's. There's not one of them. They've spent billions of dollars, and there's no cure in sight, because it's not a medical problem per se. It's a problem that's related to all those other things we've already talked about. So this man said, I will do whatever you tell me to do for 1 year, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to let the world know you're a fraud. And so, but in 1 year, the guy came back, he'd gone back to work, he could drive a car, he had all these things going on. They actually did another MRI on him, and 3 different MRI companies refused to give them the results. Why is that? Because in over 100,000 brain scans, no one had ever seen hippocampal volume increase. Guess what his hippocampal volume went to? 75% of normal in 1 year, went from 17 to 75. That is something. That is something. You guys gotta know, you can do this. You know, no matter if you have symptoms or not, this is good for everybody. It doesn't matter what's wrong with you. You know, you got arthritis, great, this will help you. If you got Parkinson's, great, this will help you. If you have, you know, just whatever, normal life, you want to live longer, you want to look better, this is going to help you. This is an exciting, exciting time to be in this frame. So, anyway, that was, I thought, hopefully a good story for you. I wish I had that guy's MRIs, I could show them to you. Okay, so, you know, we talked about using your noodle. That means you've got to do things to exercise your brain. Your brain is like, you know, it's a muscle, you've got to use it. Now, if you've had brain injury, like that trauma case that I showed you earlier, like you had a stroke or whatever, you might need to do more than just brain training. You might need to do neurofeedback. Neurofeedback is clinically proven to regrow brain cells, not just the hippocampus, like the white matter and the gray matter. There's something called Brain HQ. You can do hobbies, read, write, play cards, Sudoku. You know, you guys know all this stuff. Read books. It's all going to help your brain. It needs to be used. The next slide is about putting out the fire. That's about that inflammation and infections that we were talking about. And actually, I found this slide really helpful. See those cracked heels on the bottom? How many people have that? Do you know that that means that you have huge amounts of inflammation in your system? And if your heels look like that, your brain looks like that. And that can't be good. The good news is there's a lot of stuff you can do about it. So anyway, we can talk more about that, but don't you think that's fascinating? Okay, so the last slide is turn up the heat. We need to get exercise. We have to move around. Moving around keeps us warm and helps things go better, and it helps our hormones to flow better and all that. And sometimes we don't have good heat production because our thyroid's out of blink, and if it is, we're going to help you with that, so you can see us about that. If you have poor circulation, you might need to do some other things besides exercise. There's definitely things that can be done, like for instance taking fish oils would be a good example. talked about the inflammation. There's really a lot of things you can do to get rid of inflammation, and there's actually some supplements that are great for that, like turmeric. How many of you guys have heard of turmeric? The right kind of turmeric, there's clinical level formulations that can really turn that heat down, that inflammation down. And by the way, anti-cancer, anti-tumor, good for your brain, good for your lungs. It has many health benefits, but it's not the only thing, but that's just an example. So that shows you how nutrition can actually fall into this whole thing. We need to get your blood pressure, your blood sugar under control, and also if you have injuries that you're still suffering from after a long period of time, we need to help you recover from those. And by the way, I do acupuncture and laser therapy, so I can help you with that. And Dr. Samara has lots of therapies that she can do for you too. So that sort of concludes my talk. This is my information. I gave all of you a handout. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm actually a naturopath. I don't consider myself to be an MD, but I know wonderful MDs like Dr. Samara that can help us. I went to the University of Oklahoma. I have a PhD from Chatworth College. I also am board certified in integrative medicine. I'm also a board certified naturopath. So, and I'm also a pastoral medical consultant. So, any questions? It would be,
Can you repeat the question, please?
oh, the four horsemen, what are they? They are chemicals, biological toxins, metals, and plastics. So plastics, turns out that how much plastic do you come in contact with every day? Ask yourself, a whole bunch. Well, any piece of plastic that's soft is an endocrine disruptor. When you go to the cash register and we'll give you that receipt, that stuff that's on the surface of it is an endocrine disruptor. Yeah. It's toxic poison. Just have them put it in the bag. Put it in the bag. You know, but you don't want to touch that stuff because it's terrible. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but remember, many littles make a pickle or make it big. So you make a nickel. I love that saying. It's so funny. Anyway, you want to try to avoid all these things, not because, any one of them is like the boogeyman or whatever, but you add them up every day. I mean, literally, how much plastic do we get exposed to every day? I say metals, well, how do you get all these toxic metals in your environment? Well, guess what? The airplanes that fly over us every single day are raining down tons of heavy metals on us constantly. There's more planes in use every day, gas for planes than there are cars, and they still use lead, mercury, and all these different toxic chemicals in that jet fuel. My mom was a botanist. She worked for the University of Oklahoma. She worked for they did an EPA study. So anyway, she was hired by the EPA with a bunch of other people to go out and sample farm ponds all over the state of Oklahoma. Way out. I'm telling you, places that nobody could find. Not one pond in this state was not contaminated. Every single one of them was contaminated with heavy metals. Every one of them. Probably from it being in the air, the water, somehow. I'm just pointing out that, we don't know where we're getting these exposures, but we gotta breathe, right? I can't help that.
There's another question over here.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't do this, but I see a lot of people reheating or heating their coffee in a styrofoam cup or reheating stuff from the restaurant and the same thing they brought it home in the microwave, and
Yeah, that's terrible for you. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, because it's plastic, okay, any plastic that's soft automatically has stuff in it that is endocrine disrupting. That man boob problem that I was showing you about, that is from that. That's not the only thing it causes, but that is one of the problems. So heating it in a microwave only makes it worse.
And also, let me add this, even storing your food in plastic containers is not good because the plastic will leach into your food. So, Tupperware, you do not want to store your food in plastic containers. You do not want to drink water from plastic bottles. I know. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Uh, Yes, so there is.
The word berry, is that what you said?
Dairy.
Dairy.
Dairy
Ask your
products.
question again, would you please?
Avoid dairy products.
Dairy products, first, most dairy products have a huge amount of chemicals in them. And so they're not really milk. If you were to let a chemical analyst, if you analyze them, you'd find out there's a lot of stuff in there that's not good for you. Secondly, from Chinese medicine, I don't know if you know this, the Chinese do not eat dairy products. It causes mucus. So, you know, we're all in here coughing and whatever, you know, why are we doing that? Because we have mucus all over the place. Okay, and in Chinese medicine, by the way, mucus even causes fat. So you can tell I've been eating some dairy products. Yes, sir.
Hang on, we have a question back here.
Wait 1 second.
1 second. We have,
1 second.
we're gonna have if you have a question, Kathleen's gonna bring you the microphone, so please.
If
hold
you
on
have a question, I'm gonna come around with the mic, so if you'll raise your hand, if you have a question, then I'll come to you
We
and
have a
ask a
question
question.
right back
I got
here.
one right back here, and then I'll move towards you. I'll be up
Okay.
there in just a minute, Jim.
Okay.
Can you comment on soy?
Okay, in my opinion, and of course, I'm extremely opinionated, you can tell that, soy is terrible for you. And I say that partly because soy is the most genetically modified food on the planet. And so we should not eat it, and especially men should avoid it because it's an estrogen mimicker. And, you know, that whole man boob thing again, why is that a problem? Because we have this false estrogen, you know, it's just a terrible problem. You can't, you know, you don't want that. It causes prostate problems and everything, so you just don't need that.
Are you saying that Greek yogurt is not good for you?
Actually, I'm saying that yogurt that doesn't have live cultures is not good for you. So some Greek yogurt has live cultures in it. So when you look at your yogurt, be sure it has live cultures in it and it doesn't have fruit on the bottom. If you need fruit in your yogurt, add it. Because the fruit on the bottom kind is loaded with carob syrup.
You mentioned genetically modified food.
Yep.
You seem to imply that all of that is bad, but all of our food is genetically modified over the tens and
Okay, so
hundreds and
there's
thousands of years.
genetically modified and there's hybridized. So hybridization is a little bit different than genetically modified, but both of those things are problems we have discovered in recent times. But it's worse when you take frog DNA and you put it into a tomato and make the tomato skin where it can't be punctured. Because that is something your body cannot understand as food. That's called genetically modified. Hybridized is when I take wheat and I, work with it over the years and I get it to be shorter. So that's actually has turned out to be a problem too, but it's not as bad as inserting genes from one species into another. That is bad.
And some of the questions maybe for Dr. Samara or
Yeah.
Twyla, so if you want to address each person, you can.
Last week in Oklahoma City was held a conference about hyperbaric oxygen treatment for brain damage. Do you have any experience with that?
Actually, yes, sir, I do have experience with hyperbaric therapy for cognitive issues because some friends of mine own a hyperbaric company in Tulsa, and I do send clients there. I don't know of anybody doing it around here, but they're probably, oh, you do, Dr. Samara?
Yes, Patriot Clinics on Northwest 23rd and Council. I sent a lot of patients who have had strokes to receive hyperbaric oxygen treatment, and clinically it has shown improvement in those patients, and as well as there are numerous studies that show improvement from strokes or from different damage to the brain. My son plays football in high school and he has had 2 concussions. When he had a concussion the next day, we did hyperbaric chamber treatments. And he doesn't have, so far he has no residual effects of concussion. But concussions, we cannot measure concussions. We don't have a CT to see what kind of a damage a concussion has made. But yeah.
Your turn.
Okay.
You spoke quite a bit about pickles. You spoke quite a bit about pickles.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what I like is bread and butter pickles, but they have a lot of sugar in them, so does that not count? What would you say about different kind of pickles?
Well, okay, I'm not really an expert on that, but I can't imagine it has that much sugar, but maybe I'm wrong. I do have a recipe that I can give you guys for pickles. I didn't bring it today, but I can send it over here if you guys can print it out. They're real easy to make. There's the refrigerator kind and there's the kind that takes a little bit longer, but they're both good.
I've made a lot of kind of pickles, but you gotta have a little bit of equipment that we're not available to here. But I'm wondering about almond milk. I like it and I've always heard it's good for you, so.
Well, I think almond milk is a good choice. However, I prefer for people to make their own. It's very easy to make. It doesn't, okay, you know, the reason why I don't like packaged foods is because they have the food that you're wanting, but they have all the stuff you don't want because they have preservatives and all kinds of stuff in them that we don't want. And they have to be pasteurized, and pasteurization kills all those good bugs. So I like almond milk way better than cow's milk for you, but I would love for you to make your own almond milk. It is super easy to make. It only takes overnight to make it.
I
Okay.
think what they're getting at is, you know, they do live in small spaces and they've given up a lot of the cooking abilities. So are there stores, like say Sprouts or other health food stores that carry a good brand that's maybe organic? Can you make a suggestion to that?
Always get organic. If you can find organic food, always buy organic no matter what. You know, if there's a regular brand and there's the organic one, buy the organic one, even if it costs a little bit more, because face it, wouldn't you rather spend a little bit more today than spend $10,000 a month for the rest of your life in memory care? Pardon?
Amen.
And not only that, how much is the face of your loved one worth to you when you cannot remember who they are? I mean, that is heartbreaking. My mother has Alzheimer's. She still remembers me, but she does not remember anyone else in my family. She thought my brother was her brother when he went to visit her. He was very incensed by that, by the way. But you don't want this for your people. Now, I'm sorry, I need to tell you, my mom is in memory care because she fell and she broke her arm and her knee, and she's already had a bionic knee. She could not be taken care of at home anymore, so we had to put her in long-term care. Sorry.
Okay, what's your feeling about vegetable juicing?
I love it.
You mentioned eating beans a couple of times a day. What kind of beans are you referring to?
Well, actually, they can be any kind of beans. They find black beans and lentils, for the most part, are the lowest glycemic, but literally any kind of bean is pretty much good for you. Lentils, yellow peas, split peas, pintos, black-eyed peas, you know, all of those are good for you. You know, did I say split pea already? Yeah. So the other thing you want to do with the thing that's great about that, if you make these bean dishes and soups and things like that, meat is a condiment or it's a flavoring. It's not the main part of the meal. So if you're having a bowl of beans and some greens and there's a little bit of meat in there, that's great. You know, the problem is that then we want that big piece of cornbread with all that butter on it, right? So that part you got to leave out. That's the too much, okay?
All of our water in Oklahoma comes from lakes, and all of our lakes are contaminated, as you said. So are we talking about filtered water or something beyond filtered water?
Yes, you really should filter your water. You know, if you can at all do that, you need to, even a Brita is better than just drinking tap water.
Reverse osmosis is the best filtration system so far for water.
So sometimes people don't want to, if you don't have a lot of room in your kitchen and you don't want, there's some really good countertop systems that you can get. At my house, I live in this like super old, 100-something-year-old house. It's a pain in the tush you don't want. We were just talking about that earlier. I put a countertop in, so I just have it for my drinking water, but I'm getting ready to move to another house. I'm going to put a whole house system in because I want to, be able to have that in my shower and whatever, because even when you take a shower, I'm sorry, I don't mean to scare you guys to death, because you're like, oh, everything's bad. But you know, there's chlorine in the water, and the chlorine turns into chlorine gas. When you shower, you're breathing chlorine gas. And how did they kill people in Nazi Germany with chlorine gas? So, you know, that's not good, right?
So I have a few questions here that I may want to answer. I have a question that says, can you overcome osteoporosis without medicine? It's a very complex question because what is osteoporosis? Osteoporosis is that your bone matrix is not forming the way that a 20-year-old's bone matrix is. There's a lot of things that play a role in osteoporosis, just like what we've talked about. Food, exercise, stress, the types of activities that you do. If you're not eating real food, you're not feeding your bones. Actually, heavy metal toxicity, lead, gets stored in your bones, and especially as when women age and lose estrogen, the bones lose their the way that they can remineralize, and if you're not feeding yourself the right things, by the way, we've been told that you need calcium of 1,000 to 1,500 a day. Nope. You do not. The most you should have is actually 500 milligrams of calcium. And by the way, milk does not provide you the calcium that you need. You need to eat real food. The vegetables provide you with a lot more nutrition than milk. Okay.